everyone. Welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is a driving force behind one of Orange County's most beloved cultural landmarks, Casa Romantica. She is the executive director of operations and programming, and under her leadership, the historic San Clemente venue has transformed into a vibrant hub for arts, education, and community connection. Thank you so much for being here today, Kylie Travis.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. I've been to Casa Romantica for a wedding, and it was beautiful, but I am sorry to say I haven't been for much of the program. So I'm so excited to get to learn all about it.
Most people, it's a lot of people come to us because they've been a guest at a private event here.
No way.
We get that a lot. So it's totally normal. You're in a normal group of people that haven't experienced us as a cultural center. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
Oh, so cool. Well, to start, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Orange County. I grew up in Mission Viejo specifically. And I think I was in LA County technically for the first 2 years of my life, but I've been in Mission Viejo probably my entire childhood and college years. And now I'm in Lake Forest with my family. So I've always been around the area. And actually I had no idea what Casa Romantica was until I worked here, even though my beaches that we went to were San Clemente and stuff growing up.
Right. Oh my God. I wish my beaches were San Clemente growing up. That sounds so nice. But so tell me about how you first fell in love with dance.
So I was trying to think of this the other day. I don't remember when. It's just, I feel like it's been a part of who I am my whole life, which sounds so cheesy, but it's true. I remember being in classes, when I was 4 or 5 years old. But I feel like I've been doing it forever, and maybe it's just this innate human thing because humans across cultures have been dancing for, millennia. And so maybe it's just who I am, but I can't pinpoint an exact time. I still love dance. I teach dance here on Mondays too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dance?
We do beginning adult ballet on Mondays. It's just a 45-minute class, and it's not a specific curriculum of ballet. It's just, it's a lot of an older beginner crowd. So it's more just learning the basics like tendus, pliés, chassés, things like that. And just getting up and moving our bodies. No one wants to be part of the Bolshoi ballet or anything. We're just here to experience it.
Wait, that sounds so nice because I did ballet as a kid. I remember the trauma from the teacher.
Yeah.
The teacher I had.
Yes.
But it was nice. I remember I liked the kind of rigid, the structure of it. It was,
yes.
I liked that aspect of it. So
when I was a kid, I hated it as a kid. I felt the structure wasn't for me as a kid. As an adult now, I find it more meditative, right? Cause I have the attention span and whatnot. But as a kid, I wanted to be in hip hop class, or I wanted to be in jazz class. I had to take ballet. But that's not where I wanted to be then. Now I love it. And I love teaching it and making it really accessible to people because it can seem very complicated or very intimidating. And I like teaching it very positively because, as you know, growing up in this hobby isn't always the most nurturing or positive. I think a lot of ballet teachers now are a lot more nurturing the more they learn about the physical demands of it. I feel like the younger generations get more better experience. But yeah, my whole goal is to make sure that anyone walking in is feeling safe and positive and that they can learn these things without being scared of being yelled at or, a cane coming around the classroom, things like that.
That's such a fun, hobby to have as an adult. Mm-hmm. Well, your academic path took you from dance at OCC, which I went to as well, and then communications at Cal State Long Beach. And then you also got certificates in arts management and digital marketing. So how did that particular combination prepare you for what you do now?
It did and it didn't. I think dance honestly is probably the thing that most prepared me for high pressure situations, needing to perform, and things like that more than any schooling ever has. First of all, I love OCC. If they offered if they were a 4-year school, I would have graduated from there. I love that school so much. And communications, I feel I have to do public speaking a lot with my job. So maybe some of that, was helpful. Yeah. I feel like I learned things here and there, but I got promoted in the middle of a crisis and a landslide. So some of it is you can't be prepared for that. Yeah. You just have to I guess, push forward and be resourceful. But again, I feel like most of my things I ever learned were in a dance class. And that again sounds so cheesy.
No, it doesn't.
I feel like, you don't want to if you're in a performance group, you don't want to let the people down that are around you. There's high pressure situations, but in a safer environment to practice working under pressure. The whole idea of needing to perform or needing to, keep up a certain, professional way, even when things are high pressure or scary, you learn all that from that craft,
Yeah. God, as you're saying all this stuff, I'm like remembering things like I remember two girls accidentally swapped costumes, like costume change.
Yeah.
And they're different sizes. And they were just like, we just have to go with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great point. I now have a much more, after you said that, like I appreciate having done dance as a kid now.
Oh yeah. We've had a few other dancers work for our organization throughout the years, whether it's like an intern or someone that, has come and gone at some point. Cause I've been here for 10 years. And I always say like, oh, dancers are good hires. Cause you have to, you have a lot of grit in that craft. It's not for the faint of heart. If you really dedicated yourself to it, you learn a lot of good life skills, I think.
Yeah. That's so true. Well, so before Casa Romantica, you actually coordinated a dance company. So what did you learn from that role that you were able to take into your position now, which I'm sure that's similar?
I think I learned how to handle people. And also I loved teaching. I love being in a teaching capacity anyway. I love breaking down information or learning something and figuring out how to break it down or code it for all different levels or different ages. But I mean, when you run a dance company, you're not just running it with the kids, you're running it with dance moms. And as we know, anything where people are invested in their kids, like you obviously can get high emotions or, I had parents too that were going through financial situations and we had to work out ways for them to support their kid, whether it's payment plans or whatever, any family situation, you get kind of exposed to all different types of people and managing people. You manage a staff when you're there, you manage the kids. So I think I learned a lot about managing people, managing expectations. If you have a vision or something you're trying to accomplish, having to get everyone on board when all of their stakes are very different. And the main thing that's very specific that I learned is if a mom comes to the front desk and says, we all feel, or there's a large group of us that feels blah, 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 usually it's one person. That's the main thing I've learned when I would work the front desk. If someone comes and says there's a big group of people that feel this way and can't name them or doesn't bring that group with them, typically it's one person's dissatisfaction and they're trying to have the squeaky wheel get the oil.
Right.
And that didn't happen often, but it happened enough in even my teen years when I'd be like an office like assistant at the studios I taught at. That's a recurring thing I feel like I learned over the years to not, sweat it when stuff like that happens. Usually it's just one disgruntled person and, you handle it.
That's a really good thing to have learned because I would be freaking out if someone said that. Like everyone thinks this.
When it happens like 25 times, you're like, I don't know. And no one else is saying it. So
right, exactly. Well, you joined Casa Romantica in 2015. So what drew you to the space initially?
So I think I feel like I keep talking about dance. I
love it.
Going such a strange thing today. When you are growing up in, a studio, and then we all come to want to be either a choreographer or a dancer or whatnot. And then there kind of becomes this bridge when you're an adult. It's like, are you going to dedicate yourself to get an agent and to go to like a performing route? Or are you going to join a company and go like the artistic route? Or are you going to become a business person and run your studio? And then there's this route that's like, or are you going to get a real job? Right. That's what people say, even though being a dance teacher, all of that is a real job.
Right.
But it becomes like, okay, well, do I want to be in like sweats or like, a leotard, sweating my whole life, working just at night like a vampire? Like, at one point, like, what do I do? And so I had at that point worked for 10 years in studios because I started my first teaching job at like, 14 or 15.
Wow.
And I decided, I kept seeing like, I wanted to dress up nice for work. It sounds so silly. I was like, I want to be able to do something during the day and like have like what is a normal life schedule. Cause my whole life I'd been at studios till like 8, 9, 10 at night. all week. And then all day Saturday, you're training. So I looked for what I would call a big girl job or a real person job at the time, but that's obviously, not really the case. And so I was looking for anything still in the arts because I like being there. I'm not the type of person that would do well in like an insurance company or something like that. And so I found Casa Romantica and I had never heard of it. And they needed what was called a program coordinator, someone to just simply like execute the offerings of the cultural center. So I applied and I got the job, and I had done a few things in college. Like I ran a few art openings. I think we raised money at some point it was like some project to create like a gala. Right. So I had done a few event driven things, but I by no means had event experience specifically. I had experience telling toddlers to get in their tutus and making sure all 10 3-year-olds made it on stage and back and, running recitals. And so that kind of was enough, I guess, to get me the job.
It sounds harder to get like 3-year-olds to get like, that sounds like a lot.
So, yeah.
Well, what does your current role entail as the executive director of programs and operations? Yeah.
So I started as the coordinator, and then I became the program manager and then the program director. And then during COVID, everyone was shifting how the workspace worked, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we had lost our marketing director at that point. And at that point, I was like, I don't know, 5 years in, and thought, I've had my hands on a lot of the marketing things. What if I just went back to school, learned how to be a marketing person, and applied to be the programming and marketing director? And luckily, the executive director at that time was very supportive of that idea. And also it saves the company, saves the organization money instead of hiring a new person. So I went into a very wonderful program through UCI and finished that and became the marketing and programming director. And then our director moved on, and I want to preface this. Our old director did not leave because of the landslide. She had started preparations of moving her family out of state when the landslide happened.
Oh no.
It's just the worst timing. So yeah. She was obviously under a lot of stress and pressure. She's trying to move her, like they wanted to relocate and try somewhere else to live. And so we were in the middle of a crisis, and there was either the idea of the board going through like an executive search, or there was the opportunity for me and my coworker, who was the director of development at the time, Jackie Grossith, to co-direct this together through a crisis. And me and Jackie basically said, if you do an executive search, I don't think we're going to get the best person, because anyone attracted to a crisis or an organization going through something really horrible might not be the type of person you want. Right. And so we floated this kind of dual executive director thing. Amy had thought of it, our previous director, and we agreed to it and kind of figured out how that would work. So now we're both executive directors. We both run the organization. We have titles that kind of break us up into two branches, but a lot of the time it overlaps, and we're very intuitive of where we need to be. We work well together. Yeah. And so if the staff needs something, like if only one of us is here, we support the decision of the other person. But I know if it becomes a development question, fundraising or donor care or something, I let Jackie take the lead on that, because that was her expertise prior. And if there's something about our programs or curriculums or our museum displays or anything, that was my expertise prior. And so she kind of kicks that to my court. And so we've been doing this now for, I want to say, 2023 is when it fell. So a little over 2 years, and it's working out. It's working out great.
Yeah. So take me back to the landslide, like the day that happened. Like, where were you? How did you find out? That sounds
so. The landslide, I was the only person not on site that day. So my son, in the middle of this, got diagnosed with a chronic kidney disease. I was actually at Chalk Hospital, and he was getting his biopsy done. And I had the staff texting me like, hey, the city's here, something's going on. And granted, Amy was the director at the time. And so she was here, and literally everyone else was here. And I was in like the waiting room for the, what's it called? like surgeries and stuff at Chalk. So they didn't have like a lot of TV. Like I couldn't get a lot of information. And so I was just telling them to stay away from the Ocean Terrace.
Yeah,
I was like, you guys like pull in or whatever. So then they said it's falling. And so my son was then done with his biopsy, and we were in the hospital room, and we turn on the news and we're watching it happen on the news with all the nurses that are coming in and out. And they're saying, oh my God, what happened there? Like, oh, I feel so bad for those people. And I was like, that's actually my job. And like, oh my gosh, you're having a hard day today.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the hardest things that I've had to go through. So our staff that day ended up, they had to be evacuated because it half an acre fell. So, and they describe it as like a dirt elevator, because by the time I saw the news, it's fallen, because that's when all the helicopters get there. But they said it just looked like a landmass just slowly sinking down. And so the city had evacuated them. So we were in the middle of a 5-day Celtic festival. We had done, I think, one event, and we had 4 more events to go. And so we had one team member calling all the guests, for that event, and calling all the artists and canceling. Then we have our philanthropic and private event director calling all the brides that were supposed to get married that weekend, which, how do you explain? Like, we had a landslide, it's one of the worst things you can do. And so that was just, luckily I didn't have to make any phone calls because I had my plate full that day, but they were all working at Jackie's house, who is now our other co-executive director. She lives down the street. She ordered pizza. They basically were like code red. We're all going to work for the next 10 hours and just basically get as many phone calls out and as much, information out. And it's hard though, because we're getting phone calls clogging the lines in, and it's a phone call for someone, that's maybe thinking of getting married in the next 2 years. And it's like, no, we actually need to call the person who's like, you need to get off the phone. We have to call the person who's like supposed to be here tomorrow,
Yeah.
So a lot of people were trying to reach out to us that were like, it's so not part of the immediate thing. I think that was probably the hardest for us to juggle, is like the priority of who to reach out to, and then having to call our coordinators. And so they were just a mass communication crisis in the middle of that. And knowing, at that point, we didn't know if it was going to fall more. We didn't know if the historic house was going to be damaged anyway. So it was really, really stressful for everyone.
God, the whole like crisis management thing. I don't know if you watch Gilmore Girls, but it reminds me of when the inn burns down.
We needed Paris, really. It's like, if she was on our team, I'd feel much better. I think we did a great job. We have an amazing PR company we work with, Victory Solutions. And so, we were doing crisis meetings, I think every day for the first month, and then like every week once it kind of calmed down. But yeah, we like look back and like can't even like, it's one of those things where you are so stressed you can't remember, like you black out a little bit, right? Yeah. So sometimes we can't remember exactly what happened, but we got through it. We're here now.
Oh, it sounds like you guys have a really like tight team. That sounds like it, like as smooth as it possibly could. Oh, yeah. Well, one of your guiding beliefs is that art is everywhere. So where did that philosophy come for you personally?
That came from, I think when I was in high school, and when you're growing up, you kind of want to be in your kind of niche interest, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I was younger, I was really into hip hop, and because I was part of a hip hop like dance company. And then when I got into high school, it was like, oh, who's in the most like indie bands now, right? Like, because hip hop isn't cool anymore. Like, it's not the millennium anymore. We want to be like the most like, someone recorded this in their basement in like Omaha and released it like for one thing, and like that's how you know. And so then you become like into that, and then you're in college, and then you have to have this like really avant-garde view. We can't be mainstream anything because we're going to do art. And then it hit me like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, where I was like, God, that's joyless. Like some of the things that like just brought me just the most basic joy are full of art, and it all requires context, right? So like a perfect example I would think is this Taylor Swift's new album that just came out. I don't know if you're a Swiftie.
I want the movie.
Yeah, I'm a very recent Swiftie, and this is a perfect example. Her music wasn't my thing because we're the same. Me and her are the same age, so like I wasn't going to listen to her music because I was supposed to listen to something like that's not mainstream. Like that was, to me, that was cool and that was art. And at the end of the day, she's a super talented artist. And just because it's like a pop song, it doesn't mean that it's any less art. And once you learn the context for pretty much anything, it's everywhere. Like I remember I went to a museum and they had the original ghost chair there. I don't know if you know what that is. Okay, you do. I didn't. I was like, there's a chair that had a ghost story. Like I thought that someone died in the chair and it was a ghost thing. So I was interested for that reason. So I go to find out like who died in this chair, who's the ghost. And I realized it's like just a plastic clear chair. And I was like, cool. I see these all the time. Like, why is there a line to see this? And then someone explains the context of like this basically like, I guess a furniture architect, I don't know, a furniture maker created something that had literally never been seen before and utilized this resonant way. It's like this incredible thing and came up with this like brand new concept, right? So it's not just a chair. It's an entire idea bending and like creation. And so, you know, I just think it's really pretentious for people to even assume what art is because it requires context and it's literally everywhere. You could argue pretty much anything is art. Some people don't understand Jackson Pollock, right? Like my toddler could fling paint, but that's not like my job to say what art is or whatnot. If someone's moved by that because they, you know a special thing about it and it makes them feel a certain way, then that's their version of art. It's just incredibly subjective, you know?
Totally. I know. Whenever we go to a museum and my husband's like, I can do that. I'm like, but you didn't. And you won't.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so
I mean, do I wish I could go back in time and just paint a square blue and be like sadness and make $1 million? Of course. Of course.
Right. That's so funny. Well, okay. Speaking of ghosts, can you tell me some of the ghost stories about Casa Romantica? I saw this in an article and I was like, I need to know.
Yes. It's so funny. Yeah. It's an old house. And at one point too, it was a senior living facility. So it's like, there's not like any crazy like murder story here, but like people probably did pass away here. Because there was a lot of people living in and out of here for years. And also like, you know, some people think you haunt things of where you liked to be, you know, like you haven't had to die there. And so we do, almost every single person on the staff has a ghost story. Nothing crazy, like nothing salacious, nothing crazy. But we've definitely heard a little girl like speak. And that was heard by a former executive director in the Butterfly Garden, which is on the south side of our property. There's no way to be on the other side of the wall in that area because it drops down. So it's not like it's next to a park or there's nothing on the other side of that. And she heard mama like right next to her. And she left everything unlocked and left that day. She was like, I'm over it. Another time that happened was downstairs in our office where no one is. It's a concrete building. And me and another person heard a little girl's voice and it freaked the other person out because she didn't believe there were ghosts. And she was like, whoa, that sounds like a person standing right there. The biggest story is what we have, the ghost store. And my kids love the ghost store. Most kids love the ghost store because it's like a tangible thing. So we have this separate door that's down a very long, creepy hallway. And then it opens from the hallway into like our courtyard. And that door is historic and it would jam all the time. Like, to even open it, you needed the key and like 2 people trying to get this thing open. It's not an easy door to open. And we had for like a week straight at 3 a.m., that door swing open on its own completely. And it was like clockwork for like a week. 3 a.m. the door swung open. The door that needed
3 a.m. Of course, 3 a.m.
Yeah. So to the point where our like surveillance company was like, we can't keep checking this out. It's the same door every time. So we had to actually put a giant like rod through it. So it's not usable anymore. You cannot open it anymore. And that's the ghost door.
Oh my God.
There's no tail with it. It's just was making us pay a lot in our surveillance company for a week. The pricey door. And then like people have said they've seen things. We've had random visitors come up to us and say, I don't know if you know this, but your place is haunted. I just saw this. And that's happened many times. We had a ghost investigation team come that did stuff on Queen Mary and then wanted to come investigate here. So yeah, we definitely have it, but I feel like they like us. Yeah. Like that, like nothing horrible is, oh my gosh, I should like knock on wood. Nothing horrible has happened. We have a good rapport.
Likes you guys. It sounds really sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that stuff. Okay, well, the studio launched this year and we actually featured it in our arts issue for Orange Coast. So what inspired that edition and how is it helping residents and community connect more directly with the arts?
Yeah, so this was when the landslide happened and even when we were able to use the outdoor courtyard that's behind me, the main salon was closed still because it was too hard to protect. Like there's two giant glass doors that open up to the ocean terrace and it was too difficult to basically make sure nobody would go out and be nosy. So it was closed for 18 months. And while it was closed, I don't know. I just decided, let's just change it up. So we would go in because I just kind of felt like stir crazy. Like we have amazing programming that was happening in the places we could do it, but I just felt stir crazy that like I could be doing more. What more can we do? So when we open again, we're better. Because that's always been the biggest thing with this whole thing. We don't want to go back to how we were. Like this is a moment of growth for us. So every place that gets reopened up, how can we make it bigger and better than it was before the slide? And so the interior of Casa Romantica, as long as I had been here, was we have some historic plaques and then we have some cabinets filled with antiques. And the plaques had been the same forever and they were kind of like all over Orange County. So they weren't actually about the history of the town. And then we had these antiques that were kind of stacked floor to ceiling and all of these different cabinets, but they weren't curated. So you had no idea what you were looking at. It just looked like a thrift store almost. And then we had some incredible pieces that had been given to us over the years of plein air art that was actually in the executive director's office. This is one of them that isn't up because we have a lot of Rick Delante. But so anyway, I wanted to redo the guest experience because it had never changed in like 20 years. Like if you had come to Casa Romantica in 2001, it would look the same if you came in 2023. And I just thought like, no one's going to want to visit us. Like when you go somewhere, you want to know like what's happening. And so in every room, we decided to repurpose it. So our dining room now has a curated kind of servingware theme in that display case. Right now, it's like teacups from across the world that's there.
Cute.
And then our main salon is now condensed history plaques that talk about, what do we have? We have the Ahashiman. We have surf culture, how it began in San Clemente specifically, not the whole entirety of the culture, but our culture. We have the previous owners of the house and different landmarks around town. We put up our permanent art collection in the other half, and then we pulled out all the antiques and curated them in smaller displays throughout the house. They follow a theme. So like, you know what you're looking at. Yeah. And what we had left was an empty room in Mr. Hansen's room. And I had been wanting for a long time to have multiple art spaces. So like, I don't know if you've been to LACMA, but when you go to LACMA, you get like a paper that tells you where all the art is that day or like what's open and what's not. Cause they're constantly changing things out. And I was just like, God, I would love for people to come here and get that. Like, hey, you visited today. Guess what? There's this here, this here, this here. And so we have a wonderful gallery that shows all types of art, all genres, mediums and all of that. But what I wanted the studio specifically was to be something that showed art, but also seamlessly blended with the history of the home. So a lot of it's going to be like sketch, oil, plein air, anything that would have been reminiscent of what the Hansons could have enjoyed in visual arts is what would reside there. So if you're doing the historic home tour, nothing gets broken aesthetic wise, like it all matches. And so we wanted to do that. And then we also, building upon that, wanted to see like, could it be more of an interactive program if we got local artists? Because a lot of the ones in our gallery, like we've had international artists there. And we wanted this one to focus on local because there's actually, I mean, California art history is fascinating. And we have a lot of amazing local artists. And, you know, they sometimes don't get a great deal at galleries or whatnot. Our cut that we do is currently, I think we get 20%, they get 80%. And we're going to up it now because we're investing more in the space. And so I think for future artists, it's going to be 30 and 70. But if you go to a gallery, it's 50-50. So like the artist, that's very typical. And so we wanted it where they're getting more of a cut so that they're supported, but also can use the space. So they can literally come and paint and work on site during public hours. So it gives them a place to work. If they want to. And then it gives our guests a place to like watch it happen. Cause usually you're walking into a gallery, obviously with the end result, you know, and it takes so much time and work and skills that, you know, people take advantage of, especially like we were talking about, you know, you go to a thing, you see like, oh, I could have done that. And it's like, man, this could have taken someone 23 hours and 30 years of practice. And, you know, you miss all of that nuance and hard work and the whole creative process of it. And so that's what's cool about the studio is if the artist wants to, they can come here and work on their pieces. And then another facet is when they sell, it comes off the wall and they can repaint and add more. When we're doing an exhibition in our gallery, that has to stay the whole time because that's a curated exhibition. You know, there's a catalog that we put a thought process into the curation that needs to stay so that the guest experience is the same every time they're coming in. But the studio is specifically to support them. So if they want to sell everything off the wall and then repaint it all, that is up to them. Make as much money as they want out of this experience. And so that's kind of the whole purpose of that.
That is so cool. I love that you did that. That's like such a great way to like utilize that space.
Yeah. So I have to thank Rick Delanty, who's an amazing, he just placed, I think, in an international plein air, like amazing competition. But he's a local artist here, but he's part of the California Art Club. He's an amazing plein air artist that just so happens to live right here in San Clemente. And me and Jackie floated the idea to him first, because if it was crazy, he'd be the person to be like, hey, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then we would have listened to him. But no, he had totally supported it. And that's why we kept going, you know, and he's given us great feedback on it too. And so we have Faye Wiles in there right now. She's also a plein air artist and her work is beautiful and it's all for sale. So if anyone comes down, you know, buy art for your home, support local art.
And how long does each artist stay there for?
It depends. It's usually about 2 to 3 months, so that we can keep a nice rotation in there. Because I want to keep making sure the guest experience changes, you know, every time they visit.
Oh, how cool. I'm going to have to come see that. Well, is there anything else that's coming up that you want to shout out for listeners to keep an eye out for?
We have some spooky events. Well, we just had one this week. We showed Beetlejuice, the original movie. Right now we have Christopher Alwyn in the gallery. He does photography. So again, that's why it's in the gallery. It's, you know, more contemporary. Right. He specializes in nighttime photography though, which is extremely interesting because usually photographers rely on the sunlight to get the image that they want. And so it's all like mushrooms and woodland things, and it's all shot at night or at like dusk. Cool. And so it's really, really beautiful. And then I have our newsletter here because I'm so bad with dates.
Yeah, perfect. So this comes out, I think,
it was like, I know she can ask that. We have our Spooky Symphonies coming up. This is with the Orchestra Collective of Orange County. And I couldn't remember, it's the 23rd of this month. And so it's going to be like candlelit symphonies. And they've picked very classic pieces that are inspired by old like folklore. So they're going to have somebody like basically say like, this is the story of the blah, blah, blah witch, or I don't know. I don't know the exact stories of them, but then it'll be like a famous Beethoven piece or like, so there's again, context provided to the art where you're like, oh, or like, it might be the reason you hear this like the Dance of the Macabre. I don't want to hum it because I'm not a singer, but it's a very famous classical piece that's used in so many different like horror movies and things. That's just a classical piece of just symphony music that someone made up called the Dance of the Macabre. And then now it's associated with all of these things. So we wanted just to have like a very different take on a Halloween type event. So we have that. And then I want to say that we had one more spooky thing. Oh, like we're doing it's sold out, but I'll still say it because it's so cute. I thought I had a picture of it in here. It's an adorable little fairy garden, but it's a spooky fairy garden for kids. So they're planting a little thing. They have pumpkins and witches and things like that, but it's sold out, but it is very cute.
Oh, I love that also because I read fairy books, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds really nice. Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So first, we've talked a lot about art in this conversation, and we kind of talked about this a bit, but how do you personally define art?
I would think that art is something that makes you feel something maybe bigger than yourself or outside of yourself. Like this computer to me isn't art. I'm staring at it. I use it. But maybe if I go out into the garden today and look at a certain pattern of blooms that wasn't there and it makes me feel a certain way, like to me, even that could be art. So I think it's something that kind of shifts your beliefs or feeling or anything like that. Something simple like that.
Yeah, I love that. And you said simple, but that's such a great like meaning. Yeah. Well, what have you learned in terms of how to navigate challenges?
Oh man. To be okay relying on people around you and be okay telling people that you're not okay. I think so often when we're going through like a crisis or a challenge, I'm very guilty of this when I'm navigating my son's health. You don't want to burden people and you don't want to bring the mood down, right? Like you don't want to be like, hey, turns out his test didn't go well today, or we have to switch treatment. And so I'm told this by my friends all the time, you know, communication, just let people know. And like, you know, if it bums them out, it's on them, you know, or if they're like, oh, she doesn't have a great thing to say today. Like, I guess that's on them. But I think, again, going back to context is another one that's been in this conversation, but it provides context to maybe a way you're acting, or maybe, like maybe you can't get that phone call done today because I'm waiting for a phone call from Chalk, or I'm waiting to hear from the city if we're able to open. So I can't get back to you on something you want to do program wise, you know, right now. I think just being very open in communication and being okay relying on the people around you is big. Definitely.
I am also working on that. And I feel like vulnerability begets vulnerability. Like it opens up space for other people to feel comfortable to be vulnerable with you as well.
And I think as women, we don't want to be difficult and we don't want to ruffle feathers. And so we internalize a lot. And so it's kind of deprogramming that people pleaser aspect.
It's so hard, but it's so universally true.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what is a habit or routine that you feel has helped you become successful in your career?
It's so silly because I'm really bad at routine, and I'm a Taurus. You'd think I'm like so good at routine. Oh, really? When's your birthday?
April 29th.
Oh, okay. You're April. I'm May 15th. So I'm like I think I'm at the end, right? Because the next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm actually not the greatest at routine. I mean, I do it, like I get my kids to school on time and things like that, but I don't have like some cool executive book that has like my dreams and stuff on it. That like I schedule all my conferences at this time. And like, you know, you take like 10 minutes to plan for the future. Like, you know how they always do that for executives? I don't do that. What I have done though, because if I have to think of food, because I am a Taurus, I have to remove that. I have to remove that process. So every Sunday, I make a plan for the week for food, and then I go shopping and I prep all of the lunches, and I have all the dinners picked out and all the breakfasts is ready. So like I have 2 kids in the morning. My husband works a night shift, so I'm alone every morning with 2 animals of children, trying to get them to school on time. So if I can remove the what's for breakfast or what I'm bringing to lunch to work, that makes me more productive, and it makes me feel like I have some sort of control. And so Sunday is like my planning shopping day, and then I can just execute that. I don't know if it's helped me professionally. It's helped me mentally, I guess. And
I feel like which then helps you professionally.
Yeah. And I don't spend money at lunch. So
Yeah, God, that's such a hard one too. That's a really good tip. Well, this has been so much fun getting to talk with you.
Yes, you have to just email me and I can give you a personal tour down here. We can do coffee and tour. I want to show you everything that we have.
I would love that. You have such like a great energy and such a fun personality. So this has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd be happy to come on wherever. You were a wonderful interviewer. I felt very comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.